In this tutorial, we're going to go through navigating around IAM, account settings, chart of accounts, and the dashboard. When you first log into IAM, you'll see the menu on the left-hand side and the main dashboard in the center of the screen. Just focusing on the left-hand side menu initially, we notice the various options running down the column. So we've got banking, that's the bank feeds. Sales has the invoices and customers and items. Your purchases has your bills and suppliers, as well as the expenses. Payroll is where you run your payroll from. Your accounts contains your chart of accounts, your general journal and your budget entries. And reports contains over 30 reports on this menu. Moving on to the account settings, these can be found by clicking on the cog in the top menu bar. So when starting an IAM file, your first step should be reviewing these options and updating as necessary. So just to go into the settings, click on the cog and click on More Settings. So we'll go through each of these options here, one by one. Just quickly explain to you what's contained in them. So organizational profile, you add in a trading name if different from the company name, and enter the display name. You can also enter the entity's tax file number, change the report basis type. So say for example, you change it from cash to accrual, and update the business's email address and postal address. In managed financial years, you can open and close financial years as necessary. Here you'll see that both the 2022 and 2023 years are currently open. And if you just wanted to close one, you could just go to Actions, click on the drop down and roll over. You can enable two-factor authentication in the application. Just clicking on two-factor authentication and clicking on Enable. Then you just follow the on-screen prompts to set that up and for that to apply. You enter the opening balances. So if you're continuing the accounts from another accounting package, you need to enter the opening balances here firstly by entering the opening balances for the balance sheet, and then the opening balances for the P&L accounts. So the balance sheet accounts are here, and just to move to the P&L accounts, just click on profit and loss accounts, and here's the profit and loss accounts. Under the taxes option, you can update the tax codes as applicable. The default tax code settings should be correct, although it would be a good idea just to check. So for example, with GST, they're at rate 10%. If you want to create a new tax code, click on here, New Tax, and you would just enter the name of the tax code and the rate to apply, and then click Save Changes. But we won't do that for the moment. We'll go back. Click on Preferences. Under Preferences, you can update the settings for invoices, estimates, credit notes, and delivery settings. Delivery notes, should I say. For example, in invoices, you can update the general terms and conditions, and you can also update the customer notes. Directors, we're just going to leave that for the moment. We'll come back to that option later on. And under email templates, there's currently 2 email templates that have been set up for your convenience. These are payroll advices and transactional mail. Click on the payroll advice or the send payslip email template, and you'll see this has been set up for you, ready to go. That's that one. So moving back to the main screen and focusing again on the left-hand side menu, the chart of accounts are located under the accounts menu. So under a left-hand side menu, under accounts, the chart of accounts. You can review the chart of accounts as a whole or by account category. For example, under assets, or by assets, liabilities, income and expenses. And new accounts can be added by clicking on new account in the top right hand side in red. So click on new account to add a new account. The account we're going to add is for bookkeeping expenses. So to do that, we under the type we would select expense. The parent account, we select administration expenses, and we insert after bank charges, and we insert into the account name bookkeeping fees. And just for the exercise, we'll call it, it has GST on it, and we'll select save changes. And we'll just check to see if that's been actually set up correctly. So we'll go under expenses, and we'll see bookkeeping fees is now being set up correctly. So you go through that process for every new account that you wanted to add. To delete account, you just click on the trash icon next to the account name. So say for example, we want to delete chemicals purchased. Just go along to the trash can and select and click, are you sure to delete this account? And we'll go OK. That's the chart of accounts. So moving on to the dashboard, you can think of the dashboard as a place to monitor the health of your business. You can customize the dashboard by clicking on the icon in the top right hand side of the dashboard. Here you can see all of the graphs that can be selected to sit on the dashboard. If you don't want a graph or chart, simply untick that item. So if you just go into the settings for the dashboard, just say we don't want the cash flow graph, so we untick that and we save the changes, and then we refresh the dashboard. So we refresh the dashboard, and the cash flow graph is no longer a part of this, no longer a part of the dashboard. But we want to have the cash flow graph as part of the dashboard, so I'm just going to tick it again, and then we click Save Changes. And again, I'm just going to refresh the screen. And we'll actually just change the current fiscal year to previous fiscal year, so show the data for that period. You can customize the date range to show a particular period of the year. for the cash flow graph. So for example, you can change it to the last 6 months, or the current fiscal year. Now, because we don't have any data in IAM for the current period, it's just going to show no data at all. What we want to do is we want to actually show the previous fiscal year data, so we'll click on that again. As all of the graphs and the charts on the dashboard are really useful, I recommend keeping them all on the dashboard and not unticking any of them. They are really useful and great tools, which we'll see in another tutorial how useful they actually are. The debtors and creditors is particularly useful as it gives you a picture straight away of the total amounts you are owed and the amounts that you owe. Also available on the dashboard is a snapshot of the invoices and bills that make up these totals. So here we've got the debtors of 3160, and we've got the creditors of 2064. And just below here, we've got the individual invoices that make up the debtors, and we've got the individual invoices, so the individual bills that make up the creditors. Let's come back to the cash flow graph. It's an invaluable tool that it gives you a chance to look at the current fiscal year. But what we're going to do is we want to look at the previous fiscal year. It shows the cash flow over 12 months, including the opening and closing balances, as well as the incoming and outgoings for the business for each particular month. So the blue and brown lines here show the opening and closing balances of the cash at bank, whereas the green and red lines show the incoming and outgoings for each particular month for the last 12 months. As you can see here, the trend here with the green line is that it's fairly stable across the 12 months, which indicates that the income or incomings is fairly consistent month on month. And in a similar vein, the outgoings is also fairly consistent, apart from the spike that we had in March. The numbers are fairly similar each particular month. Now, below the listing of debtors and creditors are two other useful charts. One shows the cumulative P&L, which is this one here, and we'll actually run the report for the previous fiscal year. And the other one shows the actual versus budget figures, and again we'll run it for the previous fiscal year. So you can customize the graph based on a time period, whether it's the last 6 months and the last 6 months for the actual versus budgeted, or again as we had originally the previous fiscal year. Just to explain to you what these two graphs actually mean. So the cumulative P&L shows the cumulative increase in profit each particular month across the 12 months for July to June. The actual versus budget, now we're going to change this back to the figures for the previous fiscal year. It shows in the blue bar shows the actual figures, and the grey bar shows the budgeted figures. And so it shows a comparison of those two amounts for each particular month across the 12 months. It shows that on probably half the occasions that the P&L exceeded budget for approximately half of the time, and the other half of the time it was either consistent or level with the budget, or a little bit less.